In this video, I'm showing you exactly how one of my students went from making $500 per month with one creator to making over $30,000 per month with OFM with two creators in 7 months. And I'm not only going to just be showing you the numbers in this, showing you the highlights, I am breaking down everything. The content strategy, the team structure, the building phase, scaling operations, everything that we did over this time frame so you can copy it. Because here's what I see constantly happen in this space. Guys watch case study videos, they see the results, they get hyped, but they have no idea what actually caused said result. So ultimately, they go back to doing exactly what they were doing before and nothing changes. That's not what this video is at all. This is a real breakdown of a real student, Giuseppe, who was one of my first students in Fantra before it was even really called Fantra. It was just me and him trying to fix his agency. I watched this guy firsthand go from $500 a month, completely broke, doing everything himself, to making over $30,000 per month. But not even that. $30,000 is cool, but even watching him hit his first $10K a month, $20K a month, now at $30,000 per month, this is absolutely insane. And the reason that all of this worked had nothing to do with luck or finding a magic creator. You're not going to see that in this video. You're going to see one thing. He stopped trying to do more and started building systems. Let me show you exactly how. And before we get into this, if you want access to my free course plus community, where I break down strategies exactly like this one and also host live weekly calls every single Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, click the link below. If you want direct one-to-one access to me and the entire infrastructure, DM me on Instagram and we can chop it up. But with that being said, let's get into it. All right, as you can see here, this is how my student G scaled from $500 per month to $30,000 per month. This is the entire breakdown. Now, let's get into the before. Now, a little bit of context before we get into exactly the systems, the structure. G came to me with nothing. No SOPs, making $500 per month, a low tier creator, doing everything manually and working 10 to 12 hours per day. G was stuck. This guy came to me basically saying, listen, I know that I have what it takes as far as dedication, action, and effort, but what I'm doing is clearly not working. I need help fixing it. And that's exactly what my mission was. Throughout this entire time, you will see that I am not only setting him up to be profitable, to make money with OFM, but also setting it up for long-term success. You will not see a bunch of fancy promotions inside of this. You're going to see how I dissect his agency, edit his bottlenecks, and then reflect my actions off of that. So let's get into it. Before, one thing that he had was high-risk agencies, messy agency, and he wasn't confident in his work, and he also had an unclear offer. So a lot of you guys may even think that this might be yourself to this day. You might have an unclear offer, your agency might be messy, you might be unconfident. Let's break down exactly what these mean. So an unclear offer, how to actually grow on social media. This is something that G didn't know how to do. You can see you will see throughout this video WhatsApp text that I reference for this. When I first started mentoring G, this was done through WhatsApp. Like I said, it was one of my first students, no structure, very little one-to-one structure as far as bi-weekly calls or anything like that. This was just me and him trying to fix his agency. Now, my one-to-one students get their own custom Miro board, get communications with me every week, get accountability updates. It's a lot more structured, which shows how much more G actually wanted this. So you can see he had literally sending me texts about this X, basically the AI hybrid trend, posting images like this, asking me how to do it. He didn't know how to grow on social media. He didn't know how to run chatting for a model. This is me telling him to hire a chatter or a chatting agency because his chatting was so bad. He didn't know how to hire or where to source from with VAs in general. Hiring wasn't even in his thought process because he was so far behind with his agency, he didn't even know where to start when it came to hiring. So there was 100 plus more questions G needed the answer to, which he didn't have, which led to him having an unclear offer and unstable agency. Not only that, he wasn't confident. Even when he was basically working 10, 12 hours a day, he was unsure about what he was working on. He was working 10 to 12 hour days, but nothing was moving, which I'm sure a lot of you guys can relate because honestly, this is a common problem in business. A lot of guys will start an agency model. They will start to be working 10, 12 hour days, but they'll soon realize after a week, 2, 3, 4 weeks, Nothing's changing. And why is that? Because you're not working on high impact task. This is something that we'll cover later in this video, but it's called $10,000 task versus bot work. Very, very important that you know the differentiations between each phase and what you should actually be working on as the agency owner, which I will dissect again because I had to teach G this later in this video. But you can see he would be constantly sending me texts with issues. He would be constantly sending me texts about, am I doing this right? Should I do this differently? This, that, and the third. It was not very confident in his work. So next from this is also a messy agency. Him overall, he had no systemized processes. He had no SOPs. Nothing was repeatable. Every new model was basically him essentially restarting his agency, onboarding a different way, doing marketing a different way, ultimately playing a different guessing game for himself, which is never good. You're not going to get profitable from that. Now, also with this, it was high risk. This was his first ever text. You can see he sent me, hey, it's cooking up in from IG. I'm about to send you all the info. In this text, essentially, he was saying that he was working with one model, he was unconfident about what he was doing, and that he was starting with $1,000. You can see, but one thing I wanted to highlight is from the beginning, he wanted to build a real business, and I'm genuinely interested in working with you. Even though he only had $1,000 to invest into his time, into working with me, I made it work. One, because it was at the very start of me into even doing this. I was mainly after it to show what I could actually do. This was my first time that I would be implementing my own systems into another student. And clearly, you guys saw this title and the spoiler already, it worked. But let's get into exactly how that worked. So that was the before stage. What is the first thing that I did when I got into his agency? Let's get into the building phase. Now, this was the most, if not the most important phase in this entire system. Number one thing I wanted to do in this phase was fix his bottlenecks. G's biggest bottlenecks was that his agency was everywhere. At the end of the day, everything was messy. Nothing was repeatable. Everything was a guessing game. Nothing was being tracked, etc. Thus, leading the results to reflect that. $500 a month. So what did I do? 3 things. 1, I had him start tracking his agency stats. Here you can see a text of him telling me that he's starting to fill out the sheet for the tracking that I told him to do. You can see I also started systemizing his agency. So he now has an onboarding module. He has a goals board, and he puts the models in a model tracking. He is filling the verticals. He has an account manager and the Notion templates, all Notion templates that I still run to this day. You can see you want to have execution blocks. Onboarding goes to goals, goals goes to execution, execution goes to tracking, tracking goes to data analytics, and then analytics tells you what to repeat. Okay, so not that this is the exact thing that makes you $1 million in OFM, but the whole idea of this is stuff needs to be repeatable. Things need to be systemized. Things need to be able to repeat themselves without you having to be the bottleneck, being an idea monkey 24/7 in your business. And then third from this, I had him create a Notion for an agency hub to track all of said information. And then once we did this, he now knew what was happening in his agency. His brain could finally think and not be filled with constant anxiety about the business, which I'm sure a lot of you guys may relate to. Constantly trying to figure out, is what I'm doing actually working? Constantly trying to figure out, why are these posts not going viral? What types of posts should I be posting for next week? Everything is like a scramble. You're just grabbing, and it's what's called the life save grab. You're dying, your agency is dying, and you just go grab onto something else. Let's post this video. Let's implement those chatters. Let's do this without any predictability. And that's what I was trying to save him from here. Now, after we fixed that bottleneck of him, his agency essentially being paperless. Nothing was on paper. Nothing was visible. All right. That was one of the first things that I really saw was an issue for him, especially the type of business owner that he was. Second to this was I built initial systems. So you can see this is a text from me saying, sounds good. Let's get a call, whatever. But I wanted to do a system recap of his agency and also implement my systems into his agency. You can see here, that's us talking about the systems. And the date of this must have been 5-6 months ago. So you can see this isn't bullshit. This is what I preach. And those initial systems are going to be the content delivery system, the full chatting Discord infrastructure to manage chatters, how to hire those chatters, how to basically place the chat manager into them. And these systems, was he going to use them indefinitely and insanely right like at that time? No. The Telegram Content Center, of course he was. He was going to distribute his model's content through that, and it was going to be a lot more efficient than Google Drive, which he was previously using. However, Was he going to use the chat management hub? No, but is it better to have it built, SOPs filmed, and everything ready so that when we do have that hire come in, it is a plug and play process? Yes, that was what I was trying to create with his agency, something that he knew once he was ready to do it, it would immediately plug and play and start working. Now, this is exactly what I assigned him to do. Create initial systems. This is something that we built out together. I wanted him to build that Telegram content center, chatting infrastructure, and film Loom SOPs. Film a Loom SOP for the Discord hub, the Telegram explanation, how to film on IG and then send to Telegram, all of that. I wanted him to know, and his team to know exactly what he was doing with those systems. And I also wanted him to submit those Loom recordings to me so I could review them with him. And I wanted him to watch the Notion videos that we had inside of the program at that time. And I wanted him to create the hub, add the channels, implement the docs, and do everything when it comes to setting up these systems. Because essentially, these systems are going to be a non-negotiable for the later things that are to come as far as operating in these systems. These are what I call container systems, something that moves another process. For instance, content delivery for models is going to be filming on IG, downloading that, sending to Telegram, but overall, that's its own system in itself. The overhead system of the Telegram content distribution just makes that process a lot easier. You can see there's layers to this. Moving from this is setting a clear offer. We wanted to make sure that G had repeatability, because if you don't know exactly what your offer is, if you don't know how many models you want to work with, if you don't know how many models or your agency can pertain, you need to know everything. So we made sure to clarify what type of model G wanted to work with, what he thought he would be best at, how the chats were going to be ran in his Discord hub, how many chatters, what was the shifts going to like, does he know how to use inflow? All of these things are covered on a call. Who would do what inside of his agency. So not just, hey, you're going to need this person, that person, this person, that. No, that's bullshit. If you buy a mentorship and somebody tells you that, complete bullshit. You need to know who would do what inside of your agency. Hey, you're going to need one guy to do X, Y, and Z, but you're also going to need another guy to do Y, Z, X. Making sure that once you needed that task to be done, you knew exactly who to go to. Then breaking down $10,000 task versus bot work was also a non-negotiable in this. What a $10,000 task is, for any of you guys that are wondering, is any task that is going to amplify your agency. For instance, if you were in my position, right? My position, making around $200,000 plus per month with my OFM agency, would, let's say, posting be a $10,000 task? I think most of you guys can answer that for yourself. Absolutely not. What is a $10,000 task? Well, that would be maybe me buying a promo page for $500, $600, $1,000, $2,000 to then later go use that promo page to start promoting all of my creators. Something that will stay in as an asset for my agency in OFM to produce clientele views for all of my different models. Something that is going to amplify your agency, the life of it, or the money, or the professionalism of it, anything that is going to improve your agency in a non-negotiable way, that is going to be a $10,000 task. Obviously, does the $10,000 represent anything tangible? No, it is just supposed to represent something overly important rather than just bot work that can be done by anyone. Now, so to do this, what we did, we rice-trailed his entire agency. If you guys don't know what rice-trailing is, it's simply by putting a step-by-step process into how something is done. For instance, content is filmed, content is sent through Telegram, content is downloaded by VA, posted on Instagram through the Edits app, right? It's just a trailing process. I coined the term rice trailing. That's pretty cool. I fuck with it. It's the best way to basically take all of your thoughts and your processes that you have for your agency and put them on paper. What you're looking at right now is rice trailing. Block leading to another block. That is rice trailing essentially, all right? And because I promise you, whatever you think your agency looks like in your head is entirely different on paper. Second to this, we looked at metrics that we were tracking and made decision based on the metrics, the tracking data, and not our feelings. Previously, Giuseppe, he would look at something and be like, oh, I don't like that, let's change it. Off of what data? You need to know what is actually causing that change. If we're going to change the way a link is funneled, which we'll get into later in this video, why are we doing that? Well, we A/B tested this picture versus that picture. This one had a 13% more conversion rate. People click through that 13% more of the time. That's something that we would change based on data, not based on feeling. Third, we didn't assign any model, only A-tier quality only. At this point, Giuseppe had about 3 to 4 inquiries from other girls that he was doing outreach for, but I have told him multiple times, do not sign these models. They are not worth your time. Now, moving from this, we get into creating focus. This is something that a lot of guys do not think about. And this is what I was talking to you guys about earlier, where he didn't have a clear offer and also was unconfident about what he was working on. This will help solve that. The agency was growing at this point, but he still was struggling with what to focus on and what to think about when delegating. And here's the process that I gave him. So you can see, for instance, he was constantly asking me these what if or what should or this questions, I like to call them. Basically, hey, what do you think about this because this, or should I do this instead? Should I do this or should I do that? It was always those questions from him. So I told him this is a very way to look at OFM. You have your input, you have your process, and you have your outcome. Your input is anything on the surface level: IG, TikTok, views, metrics when it comes to content, promotions, collaborations, things like that, okay? Your process is going to be your OF page, discount, your chatting, your scripts, your overall conversion to make things happen. Your output is your KPIs. Was the promo worth it? Chatting ratio. This is essentially what the result of input plus process equaling to. And this will, let me expand this, my fault, boys. This will tell you what to fix in each one of them, okay? So for instance, if you have a 1-to-2 chatting ratio, your outcome is going to tell you that your process needs work. If your outcome is, let's say in KPIs, $5,000 in subs, but then almost none in actual like chatting, you have, let's say, $6,000 in chatting, your chatting ratio 1-to-1. Again, it's the process. Now, if you have in your outcome KPIs, let's say 13,000 link clicks to your OF, but only 200 subscribers, well, now we know it's something wrong with the process. Or if you have basically a 100% conversion rate, but you've only got 25 people to click your link, it's clearly an input problem. So break your agency up. Does this reveal a crazy new secret of, oh my gosh, I never even thought about to not work on that? No, it doesn't do anything special. And a lot of the times, the biggest fixes, amplifiers in business aren't going to yell at you. They're not going to stick out and be like, oh my gosh, here I am. That's why it's complicated in the first place. You have to be able to break it up, think about it in sections, and then dissect whatever is not working. You cannot look at your agency as a whole and be like, okay, what should I fix first? That's never going to work. You have to be able to break it up, look at it as a piece to a puzzle over and over and over again to essentially where you no longer have issues. Your outcome makes sense. It's consistently scaling. This is the main teller of whether or not your process or your input needs to be worked on. So after we built all of that, it now was the delegating phase. We have an agency that has systems. We have models that are producing content. We have a way to distribute that content. It is now not all over the place and we're not anxious about what to work on. Let's get into actually delegating. So 3 things come into play here. Number 1, building the chat team. I gave G a full breakdown on how to build my chatting server essentially on Discord. And on this call, I not only explained what was included, but also how the flow of it worked. Who talked to who? What types of people ran this? What was each channel used for? Was it that important if it didn't get used? All of those questions were answered. I explained our entire chat management to him on a call. The Discord hub, the shift scheduling, the screening process for hiring, the hiring in general, the KPI tracking, what each metric meant, how many people he would need for the entire server. I broke down everything. Then SOPs. I handed G over my SOPs for inspiration and had him create his own SOPs for VAs and creators and made sure that he actually used them. You would be surprised how many of my students to this day get my entire SOPs, but then don't use them. I get it. It's boring. It's systems. It's not fun making videos and marketing, but it will save you indefinite amount of time later on the line. Even if it's only going to be a 30-second conversation you're going to have once, imagine if you didn't have to have that 30-second conversation ever again. It allows your brain to control its focus. It allows your brain to control what it wants to work on. And when you have that control and you work on the right things, that is what amplifies the company. So you can see, hence why I told him to start filming these early. SOPs create repeatability. You can see if we go back all the way into the building phase of creating initial systems, filming Loom SOPs was a part of that. Now, you can see with SOPs entirely filled out, tons, Instagram, Threads, X, Reddit, paid promo, jailbreaking, model AQ, backend, chatting, tons more than just this. But the biggest thing that I wanted him to understand is that 99.9% of your hiring and training when it comes to delegation would be fully automated by SOPs. And there's going to be two types of SOPs in this process. You're going to have hiring SOPs and you're also going to have training SOPs. Your hiring SOPs are going to be performed by you, okay? Performed by the agency owner. And what I mean by performed, executed on, essentially. So these can be, how do I send Telegram messages? Do I send them to a Google form? After the Google form, where do they go? Do I have a screening process with them? The entire standard operating procedure for how you're getting these leads in, generating lead pool right here. And then the training SOPs are for the new hires. So they're made by you. Yes, you tell the hires what to do, your employees, but they're then executed by the new hire. And you're going to see, let me just draw something out for you guys. In agency business models, you want to slowly step yourself out of the equation. What do I mean by this? If it starts with you doing, let's say, this is your agency. Think of this house as your agency. This house needs to, clean the gutters, change the door. No, I don't know house chores. I don't do fucking chores. But you can see your agency needs to be worked on, okay? So you are the main person in between your house or your agency and you. So you obviously have to complete the work. Now, you are going to slowly put things in between you and this house. The first thing is going to be SOPs. So you're still performing the SOPs. It's just allowing you to do it a lot more effectively. Then you have your VAs. So it goes now from the VAs performing the SOPs instead of you, but you are still controlling the VAs, right? But then you get a little bit more advanced, and now you have your management. So your managers are then controlling the VAs, which are doing the SOPs, but then eventually you're still managing the managers until you get to my level where you now have what's called a ops director. So your ops director is now managing the management, and you are only communicating to your ops director maybe 1 to 2 hours per day max, if not even daily. So you can see you as an agency owner are supposed to inevitably, over probably close to 9 to 24 months, delegate your entire process. But in the beginning, yes, you have to pay what's called the beginner fee. I like to call it the beginner tax. You have to do the work. Everybody started there. Everybody's got to pay the tax. But once you get to a certain level, you want 99.9% of it automated with SOPs. Now, VAs, something that was inevitable in his agency. So you can see I told him to start hiring VAs. He said, sounds good. He finished a call with a VA. He's hiring them. Some things that we started to delegate that didn't require his time was going to be chatting, posting, and account management for the OF. Now, at this time, let's backtrack and let's talk about wins. He was now working with 2 8-tier creators. He was now making around 10K per month. His creator that he signed was making, I believe, like 5K. Yeah, 4 to 8K per month. Signed, amazing, right? We had a clear offer. We onboarded her right. She was making, I think, 4 or 5K a month when we signed her. But then after that, we scaled her up to 6, 7K per month. And they had one other creator that was doing around 4K per month. So he was around at 10 to even close to 12K per month at this time. He had a chatting agency. He did not hire he built the Discord. He had the chatting agency work within the Discord, but he did not build his chatting team out, which is something that we did later down the line. And he had VAs managing the bot work. Some would say this phase right here was a successful agency, but I did not just want working. I did not just want successful. I wanted automated. I wanted 50K a month. He told me that that was his dream. That was his goal. And even though we didn't get him there in 7 months, he's about to be there, by the way, at the time of this recording. But even though we didn't get him there in 7 months, I knew that I wanted to get him more than 10K. So introducing the scaling phase. First thing we did, we grew the IG count. Yes, this is a real image. I guess this proves it. This is a real image of his models or his model. She has 303,000 followers on Instagram. What can I say? I'm the fucking Instagram king when it comes to marketing. So you can see here, after I reviewed his account, which was around 90K when he signed her, congratulations though. I mean, A-tier fucking model. Clearly our acquisition was working. I saw, however, that 90K wasn't recent. It wasn't new. It wasn't something that was going to just pull us organic views and go viral. So I saw that it wasn't repeatable. He was posting random viral trends, clips of her streaming, overly sexually content, and overall random. All right. I decided that she would post mirror posing with captions. This helped with our USA audience. He had a weird amount of, I think, Mexican or something else. It wasn't Indian, but another audience. I also did talking head skits to also help with that, and skirt content. This was really random, but she went fucking viral whenever she would wear those really short skirts. And, I did 8 out of 10 times it would go viral. And the results, she got a 300K in 60 days. Fucking insane. But at the end of the day, this model, I will say, insanely hard worker. When G told her to start creating something, she would make it. I told him to take multiple takes. I tell him exactly what I tell all my one-to-one students to get basically 4x your input. Anybody watching this, I promise you, if you're not having your model taking multiple takes, back shooting, and going overall above and beyond when it comes to making content, you're going to lose compared to agencies like ours. Now, second to this, we perfected his funnel. All right, something that you just constantly need to look at every 2 months to a month and a half. Even my models to this day. So we optimized the link.me funnel. It was a one-click funnel with a seductive image for OF, and it matched the personality. You can see this was a great image right here. Insanely hard CTA. And then we optimized the OF, profile picture and banner. We changed them. We discounted, we perfected the discount. The welcome message had a full sequence, and we perfected the bio. Very, very purposeful and very, very perfect in general. All right. This is the same funnel that I use for 99.9% of my creators. Then investments. We were making money. We were pulling profits. G was about to go buy a bunch of designer clothing. I remember he was sending me screenshots of him in the LV store, literally being like, yo, I'm about to ball out. I said, yo, this money has not been coming for ages and ages and ages. You need to be a lot more intelligent about where you place this money. So we had a meeting around 3 months ago, about where he should place this money. Now, this is what I told him. Reinvesting. It was a simple but scary part. When reinvesting, you want to make sure that you're putting money in the right areas, because at the end of the day, last thing that he wanted, he said, yo, listen, Griffin, I have no problem investing, but I want to know that this is investing and not giving away. And I said, what do you mean? He said, I don't want to put $5,000 into a promo and guesstimate. I don't want to lose money. I would, no problem, invest this money, but investing means you get return. And I told him, don't worry, you're talking to me. So this is what I had G invest in. 1, more attention. This is going to be using money to produce higher input. Remember, input, process, outcome. This is going to be OnlyFinder ads, IG ads, paid collabs, paid promo, etc. Getting more publicity. Second to this, more clients. We hired outreach VAs to send DMs and handle booking calls for him, and we invested in building a model account for his agency. So no matter what, if his model left, he would have a place to start with outreach. Then we built automation in his agency. Remember, reinvesting doesn't always have to mean make more money, all right? There is something more valuable than money, and that is your time. Delegating by putting money in replace of your time will allow you to grow your agency from the outside. What we placed over here, this is delegating. This only happens with reinvestments. Do you think this manager is free? No. This ops director is free? No. I had to lose money to get back my time, which is essentially what you have to do. It's the trade-off every agency owner eventually has to make until they become in the stage 3 or stage 2 of business, profitable diminishing returns. Look it up. So after the scaling phase, what was the result? Well, he went from $500 per month to $30,000 per month. You can see right here, this was closing his month at 15K profit, 30K net. Gotta thank me for helping with chatting and IG. My fucking brother, I've seen this guy literally start from $500 a month, 0 to his name, or 1,000 to his name, debating on whether or not to work with me because I was charging him money. What a fucking G. And I want to say really quickly, boys, that this result didn't come from me. This was not from my actions. All right. All I provided, 2G, was information, was a plan, was a roadmap, was guidance. I wasn't the one doing this, all right? I could give this same information to 100 people and not 100 people would succeed like he did. This comes from action, discipline, and genuinely wanting to fucking build something real and who are serious about building something real. All right? This does not come from me. I'm extremely proud of Giuseppe. If I was proud of myself for getting him here, I would have said that. Now, do I think it's great that my systems actually do work when you back it by action? Of course. But at the end of the day, this is his result, and I can't say how fucking proud of him I am. And that's Giuseppe's story. $500 to $30,000 per month. One of the first ever students and still in Vantra to this day. And if you're watching this video thinking that your situation is different creators, different niche, different outcome, different situation, different geographical situation, I don't care, different market, I hear it. But here's the truth. Giuseppe's models, creators, market, situation was different from every single other student's creators, market, situation. The niche doesn't matter. The fundamentals are the same: content system, tracking system, marketing system, competitor analysis, marketing team, hiring system. The infrastructure stays the same. These things work not because they're tactics. They're the foundation that every real agency is built on. If you want access to my free course plus community where I host live calls every single week, Friday, 5 p.m. Eastern, it's in the description. It's free. Thousands of people are already in there. And if you're serious and you're already making money in OFM and you want to build the infrastructure that takes people just like you to 25, 40, 50K a month, DM me on Instagram. We'll talk. But fair warning, it is not for everyone. I only, and I think I've said it enough in this video, I only work with guys who are locked in, serious, and genuinely ready to build something real. And with that being said, boys, I appreciate y'all watching. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.